Yeah. Yeah.
Kane is in the building.
Yeah. Alright, already the show goes on all night till the morning. We dream so long. Anybody ever wonder when they would see the sun? Just remember when you come up. The show goes on. Alright, already the show goes on all night till the morning. We dream so long. Anybody ever wonder when they would see the sun? Just remember when you come up. The show goes on.
Have you ever had the feeling that you was being had? Don't that shit that make you mad? They treat you like a slave, put chains all on your soul and put whips up on your back. They be lying through they teeth, hope you slip up off your path. I don't switch up, I just laugh, put my kicks up on they desk, unaffected by...
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of State of the Jungle with Malik Wright, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host in a different spot, Malik Wright, joined by my co-hosts, as always. It feels as always. We got Logan, we've got Evan, and we've got Evan Hartman filled in. And we got a jam-packed show to get into. Remember, at some point during this show, we'll be announcing the winner of the 2 Bengals tickets giveaway. We want to thank everybody for participating. It sucks that we can only have one winner, but there will be more giveaways at some point throughout the summer to get you guys all geared up for Bengals football season. But guys, that being said, make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the First Star Logistics studio. The title of today's show is Zac Taylor. He made it a little bit of an announcement a couple days ago. We had so much stuff to get into the last couple of shows that we weren't able to properly talk about it, and it kind of went under our nose a little bit. And he talked about how he's going to be taking a little bit of a step back as it pertains to the offense and letting Dan Pitcher sort of have a bigger role, a bigger voice in that room. And I want to get you guys' opinion on it. Do you guys think it's a good thing? Do you guys think it's a bad thing? And how do you think the Bengals offense will fare with Zac Taylor sort of taking a step back and allowing Dan Pitcher to really grow in his role as the newly minted offensive coordinator of the Cincinnati Bengals? Evan Hartman, I'm going to go with you on this one because I'm very curious to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing that he's taking a step back. We see this all the times with head coaches wanting to control everything, but they just can't. It's too much on their plate, and it just ends up being bad for the whole team. Usually they're holding the team back, realizing this, and then acting upon this, and trying to help your team in the best way possible might be stepping back. I think Taylor stepping back is going to allow him to harness his focuses in other areas outside of just the offense and everything else, which I think eventually will help the Bengals explode.
Evan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is more of a story than we're making it. Or we're making it more of a story than it is what I mean. And I just think of the way that this offense has been a kind of groupthink situation the last couple of years anyways. And I don't see Zac Taylor just completely removing himself from the quarterback room, from the wide receiver rooms, from implementing the offense and installing things. I think this is pretty much a way for him to just kind of take a step back from the managerial duties to give more of a ramp up period for Dan Pitcher, who obviously is being an offensive coordinator for the first time. So probably just giving him a little bit more responsibility, letting him handle more, get used to it, and get used to running the show right now in camp, especially. But I still think it's going to be a very communication-oriented position. I think Zach and Dan are going to be on the sideline during games, talking about this all through the week in their meeting rooms. I think Zac Taylor is very much still going to have a say in how this offense is structured and run. And we'll see what ends up being the play calling. We've seen other head coaches in the past hand off play calling, which I've generally been a fan of because I've always advocated for, hey, being a head coach it's fucking hard, guys. Like, it is really hard. And you've got 40 seconds between plays to process what happened, what kind of personnel you want out there, what you want to be thinking for down and distance, which obviously you've got all these cheat sheets to help you with that and make a quick process oriented decision. But you do have to implement all these other factors of how much time is left in the game. Okay, now I need to be thinking, do I get another drive? Do I want to take a chance here? And you're trying to weigh all this so quickly, trying to manage an entire side of the ball and also be thinking about that in the way that offensive coordinators can benefit from thinking plays in advance of, hey, I'm going to run this to set this up later. It's just, it's hard to process all that information in the time you have. So I'm always an advocate of anyone not named Kyle Shanahan, Andy Reid, or Bill Belichick to pass responsibility for their respective play calling off to their coordinators, because you can still have that influence and chime in when you want to, but it's just there's so many benefits from handing off that responsibility. So I don't think this is something that's going to drastically change the Bengals offense. I don't think this is something that we're going to see a whole bunch more of, like 12 personnel. Sure, we'll see the pseudo fake 12 personnel with Mike Gesicki out there who's really a receiver. I will stick to that, but I don't see big sweeping changes. I just see a little bit of dialing back his responsibilities, which I think would be a really good thing that probably can help him be better in the margins as a head coach.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. I think at the end of the day, there's a reason this was said now and not at the beginning of the season. You know, they're going to let Pitcher and kind of Zach kind of figure out how they want to work together. How is this dynamic going to work? Obviously, you know, they've been around each other plenty, so it shouldn't be some crazy thing. But again, it's happening now, so they can work out the kinks. They can figure it out. They can, again, adjust where they see fit and just adapt. Like it's spring, it's OTA, so you got so much time before the season starts. Now's the time you are supposed to be working on all this stuff. Now's the time you're supposed to be figuring out the kinks. Now's the time you're supposed to be trying to smooth things out. That's exactly what they're doing right now just by saying this. And I think Zach, it's always good just to get different opinions and eyes and minds and thought processes on anything, but especially in football. And kind of like Evan said, I don't think it's going to lead to anything drastic. You know, the concepts are still going to be there. They're all going to be the same, but I think, you know, they'll be dressed up a little bit differently. Like I said, you know, the Mike Gesicki is a receiver thing. Yes, he's going to play tight end still, but he's still, you know, they're going to line up. They're going to have different packages, different personnels. But I think at the end of the day, things are going to be relatively the same. They're just going to look a little different. Like they're not going to just all of a sudden run the ball so much more, do things so much differently. They're going to have what they like to do. I think it's just the appearance and the look of it could be the kind of the biggest drastic change.
So it could be different. You're saying
The look, I think the look, like, you know, because like with having a guy like Mike Gesicki, you can have two tight ends, but really Mike's going to be your slot receiver. So while you might not think this is a vertical shot play, it's still possible of doing it. You know, it's just they're going to dress it up a little bit different.
2 inline tight ends
Yeah.
and then suddenly motion before the
Yeah.
snap to get him in the slot,
Yeah.
as opposed to lining up in static 11.
Yeah, like you
personnel.
could run 4 verts with 2 tight ends on the field still if
Right.
you want, like 4 verts. I think they're going to stick to their same concepts. Things might just appear a little different. So it's not because the Bengals would before they were just, hey, we're going to 5 guys out here, we're going to run deep. This guy's not, and we're just going to, you know, throw the ball. But now they might try to disguise it a little bit more, kind of hide what they truly want to do a little bit more. Maybe not. But that's just kind of the thought process. I'm assuming that I could kind of see Pitcher kind of banging
for
tip
sure.
before.
So here's what I'll touch on. And I think all of you kind of explained that a little bit. I do think it is significant to some instance, to some aspect, because at least I can't speak to for all of us, but I do know that I was told that he was very reluctant to give up play calling or even suggest the idea of him stepping back to some degree. And this is a huge step. I mean, you figure he's now this is gonna be year 6 of his on the job at this point. Is that is that accurate? Year 6? Year 6, years
5,
year
6.
5? Year 5? Really? Okay, so no, I don't think that's accurate. Yeah, okay. Damn. That's why you have a producer who knows what she's talking about, who has this stuff readily available. No, but I do think that personally that it is significant to some degree because you know, Evan brought it up beautifully. At some point, you take a step back. I got to specify what Evan.
Yeah, right.
Evan McPhillips brought it up beautifully. We talked about the idea of stepping back. For me, if it wasn't significant to some degree, there would be no reason to make that known to the public, in my opinion. Obviously, there's going to be a ramp-up period for anybody starting a new position and allowing that quote-unquote new play caller or whoever to get adjusted as well. But to me, there would have been no reasoning to even have brought that up. Dan Pitcher's a guy that was I feel he was praised in a lot of league circles where a lot of people, you know, he was starting to get those phone calls to be potential offense coordinator.
Yeah.
When he got the phone call to be the Bucs offense coordinator. I think the Saints had some interest in him. The Raiders did at one point as well.
Yep.
So he was getting those calls already, right? He was getting those people that were interested to see what could potentially happen. But, you know, I look at it this way. When you become a head coach in the National Football League, it's a promotion. It's a promotion. It is. Yeah. And like any promotion, when you get promoted, you no longer have to do the same duties and responsibilities that you had to do at one point or another. You ideally, because I believe the the greatest test of a leader is his ability to delegate. And delegation could be, hey, we're going to let you call plays. Let's see what happens. Let me focus on the team management portion, right? Let me focus on the team management portion, because I also commend Zac Taylor here, because this is a guy that was never lauded necessarily as the most intricate offensive mind, a guy that can out scheme. He's had games where he looked damn good. But I also know for a fact Brian Callahan had a big hand down the stretch in play calling last year for Jake Browning, which is why you may have seen things look a little different at point in time. You see, when you're able to remove yourself from the day-to-day, the nuances of, hey, I am the guy calling plays, or I am the lead guy front and center, you're able to get a fresh new perspective. It's the reason why Evan is sitting where he's sitting today, and I'm sitting where I'm sitting. I'm taking a step back, and I'm like, how could we make State of the Jungle the goddamn best live in studio, only in studio.
Taking over the show calling, baby.
Right. So he's taking over the show calling. He's doing play actions a little bit more, right? No, I'm kidding. But no, honestly, it is good to take a step back sometimes and remove yourself, because if you're really to the thick of it, or as Evan would say, when you're really into the mud of it, sometimes it's very hard to, I guess, properly analyze and look at it from a different point of view.
From a macro perspective, man, when you take a step back, you see the bigger picture, right? And maybe he feels that, like, hey, I've been so focused on what's going on with the offense, and I've been so hands off with the defense with Lou that I want to get to know these guys better, their strengths, their weaknesses, what I can do to help them be more successful, especially after having a down last year. Like, what can I help you guys do day to day? Because again, being head coach, part of the reason it's so cumbersome to be a head coach while you're trying to do coordinator at the same time is because you're trying to manage all the CEO aspects of the day-to-day stuff, right? Like, they were talking about Brian Callahan was actually just recently talking with Robert Mays about, like, hey, how did Zac Taylor help prepare you for the coaching change? And he's like, mostly just the mundane stuff you have to deal with, like picking paint colors for rooms. Like, it's just stuff you're not ready to be a head coach, and that's like, oh, I have to worry about all this extra bullshit. Like, I just want to coach football. Like, so I think it frees Zac up a little bit to get to know the players a little bit better, what they need to help be more successful, and kind of, like you said, see the bigger picture where he's been so offensive focused. Maybe there's something where he goes, wow, I can really make the entire team better by doing X, Y, and Z.
I think you said it beautifully, brother. And I think that anytime as a leader, you're able to take a step back and you're allowing others to really flourish and show what they're capable of, man, I think that then you're really able to see what you have. You're really able to see what you have. There's going to be a point, guys, in June where I'm not going to be on the show, and Evan is going to be leading the show. He'll be the host of State of the Jungle with Malik Wright or Evan McPhillips or something like that, and he's going to be the guy. I will be here
with the crew, with the state of the jungle crew,
state of the jungle crew,
sans Malik.
But at the end of the day, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing, and I think it's a huge boost of confidence for Dan Pitcher. Take it from somebody who's in a leadership role. It is a boost of confidence for the people that you work with, that you show, hey, we believe in you. We believe in what you're capable of. We believe that you can take this to the next level. You got a nice comment in here too.
I saw that. I wasn't going to interrupt your spiel there, but
Evan Hartman is such a good addition to the show. I agree. We like him here.
Thanks,
always
I
need
like
more
being
Evan.
here.
Always need more Evan.
You can never have too much Evan, right? I don't think that's
more Evan than your Logan.
We could
you looked
fit,
into a name change, or maybe
I'm
just go
open to
middle
having-
name.
Everything's got a price.
I'm open to having another Logan on the show. But there can only be one Malik. There can only be one way to do it, right? And that's the right way, Malik Wright. So no, in all seriousness, though, I think this is a good thing, though. Taking a step back, being able to, because I feel like some of the outcry from people not named Malik Wright has been, hey, Zac Taylor probably should give up play calling. I've never said that. I've never had a rant or two or three or five ever talking about run the damn ball or any of that. I've never had that. But in all seriousness, this could be a good thing for the offense. And I feel like everybody gained a fresh perspective after seeing the success that the Bengals had down the stretch. And I think sometimes a fresh perspective is a good thing to have.
Yep.
Maybe it calls you to reevaluate things and say, hey, you know what? Maybe we need to appreciate what we have a little bit more, right? I have no idea. But I think that even for Joe Burrow, you don't always have to be Superman in the National Football League. You have to try to stay upright for your team. They made you the highest paid quarterback in the National Football League. You owe it to that team to show up. And when you're out there, show out. But that doesn't mean necessarily you have to throw the ball 40 times a game. There's a smarter way to do things. And if it produces greater results, guess what? The Bengals were winning with Jake Dan Browning at quarterback.
Yep.
Yeah, so much people. It was so good. People were saying, the Bengals paid Joe Burrow and Jake Browning might be better. Now, that's asinine talk if you ask me, but I still think that there is some truth to be, I guess, taken away from it, meaning you don't have to always overcomplicate things. Keep the main thing. Keep it simple, right? That's just my thoughts on it. Let's move on, though. While we are moving on, make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the First Star Logistics studio. Guys, I got to be honest with you. I love sitting at the desk, but I really like sitting here.
This is bad news for me.
It's very bad news. It makes me feel like we're back at the old studio a little bit. I can't lie. It makes me feel this is my vibe, sit back, chill, whatever the case may be, talk with the boys. Let's keep it going, though. There was an uproar on social media, and I think a lot to like what Evan said on the first topic. I think we're making not weird, but I think they're making more out of it than what was necessary. There was no Jamar, there was no T. Higgins, and people said, T. Higgins, trouble in paradise. Jamar Chase, he has that contract coming up. Let me just remind people, there's no benefit. Maybe for the Bengals, but there's no benefit for Jamar Chase to want to open up contract talks with the Bengals this year. There's no benefit to that. And I guess people forgot the portion that it was voluntary.
Yeah.
Right? Some guys have their own process. And I know if you have a long season, the Bengals don't have necessarily the longest season. But the last place I would want to be, I would want to be able to soak up as much fun as possible, as much as, my daily routine that I want to get into before having to head back and, get ready for this next 8-month grind, essentially. Right? So I think a lot of people were making a little bit too much of Jamar Chase not being present. We know the T. Higgins thing. I don't know if you guys want to touch on that at all. I just think it's a little crazy that this has become the discourse that, we got to watch everything that happens in the Bengals voluntary camp. Because T. Higgins doesn't have a contract. So that means he's going to somehow force his way out of Cincinnati. And the Cincinnati Bengals are going to. This is the same Cincinnati Bengals that watched Carson Palmer retire and said, offer us. Well, let him sit. Let him sit. So let's not make more of it, Florio, than you have to. In my opinion, I think too much is being made of it. It's gonna work itself out when it works itself out. I think we always get these. I feel like we always get these like crazy ass stories in the offseason and people make a whole big bunch of it. I don't see a Le'Veon Bell situation unfolding for the Bengals and T. Higgins. I don't see that unfolding because I actually think the Bengals are franchise tag them again just to prove a point. But Evan McPhillips, what is your thoughts?
Make sure we specify.
I gotta be careful, right? What were your thoughts?
This is the most non-story of the offseason. I mean, talk about business as expected. Jesse Bates, when he was going through his stuff, didn't even report until late August, right? So we knew T was not going to be reporting, and he's not under contract. Why would he be out there practicing, risking his health and injury if he doesn't even have a contract signed yet where he is getting some sort of guarantee, right? So obviously we did not expect him to show up until probably August, I would say. And nor does he need to. If he's doing his work on his own right now with his position coaches, with his receiving coaches, with anybody he works with in the offseason, like that is perfectly fine. And wide receiver is one of those positions where you can kind of step in and do that, especially when you have been playing for the quarterback for the last couple seasons, right? So you guys already have that chemistry and that feel. The other side of this, which is like the part that like frustrates me so much about the Adam Schefter tweet, is that he juxtaposes both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase's situation and says they're both seeking new contracts as if both of them not showing up is somehow related to that. Like Malik said, Jamar Chase is the only person who, and his agent are the only two people who don't want to sign a contract right now. Like if this was related to needing a contract whatsoever, the Bengals would have him signed. That's not an issue. You don't have the injury concerns necessarily that you do with Higgins, with Jamar Chase. You have top 5 production, elite potential with Jamar Chase. It's a no-brainer, no question. What do you need? And on top of that, the other incentive for the Bengals to sign him right now is because you're looking at the contracts that Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb are going to get. And man, like if you sign right now, you might get him for $30 million a year. If you wait until after those two sign there, you might be 34, 35. So it's like immediately there is incentive for the Bengals to get this done. The only people who benefit from waiting right now are Jamar and his agent for getting a higher payday, which is completely fine. But on top of that, it's just like the Bengals also would have 2 extra rookie contract years that they could spread the cap hit out onto to help even everything out a little bit and manipulate the cap hit like they wanted to. They have so many reasons to sign him right now. If there was any interest between Jamar and his agent to do that, it would be on him. So I'm the frustrating part about it for me is seeing Schefter kind of put those two right next to each other with no context. Like, hey, they're both sitting out. They're both seeking contracts, implying that they're both sitting out because of that. Jamar Chase is just out training again for the voluntary part of camp. The voluntary part of camp. And this is important for rookies to get their feet under themselves, right? Get used to the NFL grind, get used to the workouts they're doing, get up to speed and comfortable with the drills they're doing, figuring out all the little minutia of being a NFL professional now. As someone who does this as a professional, even Miles Murphy's talked about, I was in combine shape and training shape versus football shape this year. So it's a lot of getting the rookies comfortable with things. So like, again, veterans missing this, like it's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. It happens all the time. And this is as much of a story as when you hear in May, oh, the rookie quarterback who was drafted number 1 overall is 5th on the depth chart in the quarterback room. He's going to have to earn it. Like, yeah, my ass, guys. Like, we are just trying to find something going on in May to talk about. So that was just kind of frustrating for me to see all that one. It's bullshit.
And you know what's crazy? It ain't going to stop.
No.
There's going to be those talks. Joe Burrow, can he stay upright? Joe Burrow, the offensive Joe Burrow, you're going to hear all of it. You're going to hear all of it. And it sucks, right? Being a smaller market team, you get those, I guess, pundits out there that realize Cincinnati, for being a kick-ass city, they also have a loyal, diehard fan base. And I don't know if you guys have realized what's been going on in the media lately, but anytime they're starving for clicks, they mention those Bengals. They mention those Bengals and they say, you know what? Their fan base is going to interact with us. Their fan base is going to be fired up. Their fan base is going to give us the attention that we're seeking. So we're going to say Jared Goff is better than Joe Burrow.
Boy, do we give it to him.
And you give it to him every single time. You give it to him every single time. Yeah. Oh, what do you mean Jared Goff is better than Joe Burrow? And we all know it's an asinine take. We all know it makes absolutely no sense. Guess what, guys? I came from the land of media. And I love people say, Malik, you bring a New York, New Jersey style to Cincinnati. Trust me, when it's the dog days of the summer, when it's the dog days of the offseason, that's what they used to do in New York. That's what they used to do with the Jets. That's what they used to do with the Giants. This could be the year that the Jets break through. This could be the year that the Giants break through. Daniel Jones is the second coming of Eli Manning. Yeah, those are the things that happen. We say sheesh, but Eli got 2 Super Bowl. I'm being like,
I like it. It was more of a Daniel Jones. Sheesh.
Yeah. But, trust me, that stuff happens on a regular basis. I came here to destroy and be destructive and interrupt the room. And, when people talk and they make asinine takes about Cincinnati, I'm the guy to say, that's not true. You should see me at the combine talking to my buddies. Like, nah, Cincinnati's really not like that. Not what you think. Cincinnati's a lot cooler than that. It's fun. I think they have this image of Cincinnati of it being farmland and, not a lot going on here. Cincinnati's an up-and-coming city. It's kick-ass. It's awesome. There's a reason why I decided to move here. I lived in New York, New Jersey area. I could have stayed there. No, but I wanted to come here. It's special. It's a special place, and it's up-and-coming. It's up-and-coming. So I just want to tell Bengals fans, hey, don't worry about all that bullshit that you're going to hear throughout the summer. You're going to get worse. You're going to get worse. First, it was, Jermaine Burton. No, I don't know what the back. Every pick is scrutinized. Everything that this team does is scrutinized. And it's lazy and it's all that kind of stuff like that. But guess what? I am so blessed to be in a position where they're actually talking about the Bengals again. We're talking about Cincinnati. It's cool. Because guess what? If they weren't looking at Cincinnati as a threat, if they didn't view the Bengals as a team that could finally break through this year and erase the curse, guess what? Then we wouldn't have nothing to talk about, to be completely honest with you. So I appreciate all the talking heads. I appreciate all the pundits. I appreciate everybody for making a big deal out of a whole lot of nothing. Logan, is there anything that you want to touch on, Hartman? Anything you guys want to touch
Yeah,
on before we move to the next topic?
Yeah, I kind of want to talk about, I guess the positives of the situation. Like, we all know the players T and Jamar when they're on the field. I'm not worrying about the beat on the field, but I think that the extra reps, Charlie Jones, the extra reps, Jermaine Burton, the extra reps, all the tight ends, and Yoshi us are getting right now with Joe Burrow are super important. We've talked numerous times on the show about how we don't really know what we got out of Charlie Jones last year because he didn't really play. Now he's the oldest receiver in that group right now that's really getting run. So Joe's getting that firsthand look. Pitcher and Zach are getting these firsthand looks at these guys against the starting defenses, against all over the field. They're doing different things. They're just getting more looks. They're getting more reps, so you can kind of form more of an opinion because, like we've talked about, that third receiver role or where these guys are going to play. If this guy's going to play in the slot, if he's going to play outside, you're going to get more information right now because those receivers are their focus opposed to having Jamar and T out there. So again, I'm not worried about Jamar and T not being out there because they're going to be out there. And when they are out there, we know how good they are. We know their connection with Joe, but having these other guys having that opportunity to, earn more game reps, more game snaps, more targets, and building that connection with Joe Burrow is super important right now.
Yeah, no, reps for the rookies, man.
100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, not much that you guys didn't say. I mean, it's practice. Like Alan Iverson said, we're just talking about practice. It's voluntary practice here. Like, I don't understand. I mean, it's like you said, they're blowing it up. And once they stop talking about you, that's how you know they stop caring. So it's a good thing. And although it might seem like it's hate, it helps Cincinnati out.
The day you guys stop watching State of the Jungle on Wednesdays, I will know that I'm washed, and I will know that it's time to hang it up. But you know what? Let's talk AFC North. We've talked, I feel like, at a nauseating pace about the Bengals roster breakdowns and talking about position battles, and there's going to be a whole lot of that to get into. But I want to take a break with that, and I wanted to really dive into the AFC North. But before we do, if you guys can do us a favor, give this video a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the First Star Logistics Studio. We greatly appreciate it. By liking our video and even subscribing, right? It's how you stay up to date with our content. Because if you like the video, YouTube will put it in your algorithm and you'll start to see our stuff pop up on a regular basis. But do me a favor, guys. You guys know what I'm going to say. And if you don't, here it is. Drop your questions, drop your comments down in the comment section. This is my favorite part of the show after the AFC North talk, where we start answering your questions. So drop your questions down in the comment section because we try to do it every single State of the Jungle show. We try to get to every single one of your questions. I'm sure as the summer months go on, our shows probably won't be as long as they have been, like whether it be like an hour and a half. It will probably be maybe an hour, a little bit under an hour or so. But we still will be bringing
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, challenge accepted. We still will be bringing Bengals content to you. You get Evan with a hot mic, it might be over. So
I was going to say, I could talk a long time. I love the sound of my own voice.
No, I'm going to tell Simone on you for that. But if you guys could just start dropping your comments down in the comment section, we want to make sure we get to them. But let's talk about the AFC North. We talk a lot about the Bengals, right? But I feel like we need to put more of a focus on the fact that the Bengals had one win in their division last year. I've talked about it before. And when I look at it, I say, that's unacceptable. We can't struggle in the AFC North the way that we did and expect to finally break through. That just can't be the case, right? I think we're all in agreement here. If the Bengals want to do something special, you have to do yeah. Simone knows Malik, as Simone says. If the Bengals want to do something special, they have to take care of business at home first. And I've given my rants. I've talked about it at an nauseating pace. But I do want to talk about some of the teams that in our division that might scare us, or maybe you don't scare us. Maybe they just make us feel a little bit uncomfortable. And I'll start with the team that makes me uncomfortable in our division. And I'm going to go with the Browns. I am going to go with the Browns. And it shouldn't be the Browns. Let me just say that. It should not be the Cleveland Browns. But for some reason, we've struggled with the Cleveland Browns. They tend to have our number. They tend to get up with these leads and they control the game. And we just never seem to really be able to make our mark in the game. Now, you hope with the addition on the offensive line, with the additions that were made to the wide receiver room, you hope that maybe this is the year where the Bengals can I just want to see what the Bengals look like controlling the game against the Cleveland Browns. Will it look drastically different versus playing from behind, versus letting the Cleveland Browns get up to a lead? and they're taking chunks and chunks and chunks because I feel like the Cleveland Browns are not built to play from behind. I don't feel like they're built to play from behind. And I feel like every single time we preview games, like we do each and every single week the Bengals are in season, we talk about it. Hey, the Bengals, the key to beating the Cleveland Browns is to get ahead, right? And then go from there, make them play from behind. And we just never see that manifest itself. So when I look at it, I say, hey, can the Bengals finally break through and beat the Cleveland Browns this year? I think I feel better with the additions that were made, but still, it's one of those things you got to show me. I got to see it. I got to see it in its glory. I've got to see the Bengals be able to take advantage. We talk about the Bengals having such a great offense. And then when it gets to the AFC North matches, we're like, well, that's the AFC North. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that this year. Because I do think that the Bengals have a lot of strengths that they can take advantage of when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. I really do. I really believe that. And it's just a matter of, okay, what's it going to take for them to break through? Are they going to be able to get a lead early? And I agree with Yehuda MD in the comment section says Bill Callahan is gone. Yeah, but I don't think Bill Callahan was necessarily the reason why all the time. And he's a damn great offensive line coach. But I think it comes down to the Bengals' execution. Now, you can say, oh, well, Malik, remember, Joe Burrow had his calf injury. So he didn't play like himself. But I also think sometimes, like, you guys ever remember growing up and, you know, you're scared of the monster under your bed. Remember that?
Yeah.
You're scared of the dark. Me, I was never scared of the dark, never scared of no monster under my bed. I was more so scared of tornadoes and, you know, planes and stuff and weird shit happening. That's what I was worried about. But sometimes we kind of can get in our own way about things. Evan, you sat on the plane ride with me. You know how I am. Sometimes I start panicking. I'm like, oh, man.
Is this normal? Is this turbulence normal? Are we sure this is the right amount of turbulence?
This is like
Exactly.
supposed to happen. But I think sometimes we do that with Myles Garrett. I think sometimes the Bengals do that. Myles Garrett is a damn good player. But it's almost like what teams used to do when they used to face Darrell Revis. Remember that, Ev? And look,
Yeah.
You're probably a little too young.
For Revis Island?
Okay. Oh, so you know about that. Okay. Cool.
I was
But
gonna say, how old were you?
they
Like
used to
6,
shut
7?
down. You can't shut down half of your, half of the field, or take your offensive playbook and shrink it because we're so scared of the big bad Myles Garrett. We're so scared of him. If he's gonna sack your quarterback, he's gonna sack your damn quarterback. It's the game of football. The defense is gonna win some reps. We're gonna win some reps sometimes. Let's not make it more than what it is, but let's shade some protection over his side to make it eat. Just run your damn offense. And sometimes I think we just get in our own way when it comes to some of these quote unquote elite passers. But then you know what's crazy? They'll go against a damn Nick Bosa and be like, "No, we're running our offense.
Mhm.
Fine, great. No, not a care in the world." That's just my thoughts. The Browns are my team that I think that I view as a threat to the Bengals, not to the AFC North, to the Bengals, right? And I think that when we talk about the margin of error in the AFC North, a loss or two to the Cleveland Browns could dictate if you win the division or not. But Evan Hartman, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I had the Browns as well. I was
okay.
deciding between the Browns and the Ravens. But kind of what you said at the end, it was more of a threat to the Bengals than the Ravens. And like you said, the Browns have always had the Bengals number. Look at the first game of the year. I mean, 24-3 is unacceptable against the Browns. I mean, it's at home or it's away, which I'll give you a little bit of leeway there. But Joe Burrow going for 14 completions on 82 yards, you just can't have that happen. No matter how bad your offensive line is.
Wait, are you telling me that the Bengals
lost
because they were worried about people barking? Is that what you're saying? Like they're being away?
I don't know why they lost.
Like, by the way, that's the one game I hate going to.
I don't blame you.
Have you been to a Browns-Bengals game?
Not.
Dude, we went to one a few years ago, Malik.
You were with me.
Sucked. Shit sucked. Bro, we were out the night before, and they were doing
Bulldogs,
it.
Georgia.
And they were here we go, Brownie. Like they start the whole barking thing, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Why are you barking at me? And when I say they do it throughout the entire game, and as they're walking out of the stadium, they're doing this same exact. It got to a point where I just wanted to go home and lay down. Like I really had a headache.
I don't get their color, their name's a color. They're like their mascot's an elf, but they all bought. I've never understood it. I've always wondered. But like you said, going there, maybe that's not the reason they lost because maybe the barking had something to do with it. I don't know. But Joe Mixon going for 56 yards and no touchdowns doesn't help, and Jamar only getting 39 yards doesn't help. So the team just don't show up against the Browns. You look at the one game they did win the division last year. They won 34-14. It was Jake Browning versus Jeff Driscoll. I'm not really taking that as a win as much as I know I want to. Granted, it was their only one of the only one in the division. I want to take it, but I'm just not going to take it if it's Jeff Driscoll versus Jake Browning. The team just doesn't show up. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're scared to play the Browns, but the Browns and Bengals have both been the bottom feeders of the AFC North for how many years now, and it's weird that that's the team they're scared of. So, I mean, there's nothing that you said that I wasn't going to say, but the Ravens are the threat to the AFC North, I do believe, but to the Bengals, I think winning the 2 against the Browns will be your best success in winning the AFC North.
I will say this too, because I feel like nobody's going to mention it here, but I just want to make mention. I just want to say this. Let's not write off Pittsburgh completely, because Mike Tomlin finds a way to just win with the Pittsburgh Steelers and make games competitive. And I feel like if Russell Wilson, and I know how Evan feels about Russell Wilson, I think we've talked about it a couple times, but I feel like if Russell Wilson's going to return to some semblance of, and he didn't have a crazy bad year last year.
No,
I just think he wasn't a Sean Payton guy. But I feel like if he's going to return to some sort of semblance of who he was at points, I feel like it's going to be with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That smash mouth run the ball, and they had the ability to check the ball down the whole 9 yards. I'm curious to see how that offense is going to unfold a little bit. We know Deontay Johnson's no longer in the field there, but the Pittsburgh Steelers just find a way to keep games close. And if the Pittsburgh Steelers can keep games close, the Pittsburgh Steelers can win.
Yeah, I'll touch on the Steelers a little bit too. I don't like they weren't going to be the team I sat here and talked about, but I think maybe this time next year, the Steelers could kind of be that team we're talking about. They just have to figure out the quarterback position, and then things get so much more exciting when you're in Pittsburgh. They got a pretty good roster top to bottom. Obviously, there's going to be some holes like there are on every team, but they had a really good draft this year. Drafted 3 offensive linemen, now McCormick, Zach Frazier. Those are 3 players that pretty much project to be pretty solid NFL players. Roman Wilson was a good draft pick as well. Peyton Wilson, they had a phenomenal draft this last year. And again, they got good running backs. They got some talented receivers. They got a phenomenal defensive line like they do every year. They just kind of need some more of their other premium positions to pan out a little bit. Maybe Pickens takes the next step. Arthur Smith's there now, so I guess I truly have no idea. Maybe it's Darnell Washington.
Here we go. Force feed Van Jefferson.
Hey, Cordell Patterson is there. Returning with Arthur Smith. Yeah.
I don't like that.
So
I don't like that. But this is a guy in Cordell Patterson. Didn't he have 10 touchdowns or something like that 2 years ago?
Yeah.
With him?
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, if they're gonna if they're gonna get out of their own way, yeah, man. They've got it. They are the type of team that will overly force feed guys and try to make it work for them. But it does work though. I don't know why it took them so long to realize Jaylen Warren was a more efficient back than Najee Harris. I don't understand why it took them. I'm grateful that it did, but Jaylen Warren was proving that he could be a guy that they could rely on consistently for majority of the season, and it just took them a while to kind of really go. And that was even the weirder thing about the playoff game against the Bills. They just completely went away from him. It was weird. It was strange. Yeah. And I understand Najee Harris was showing something, but it's come on, man. You know what you got in Najee Harris at this point in time. But Evan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, I look at the Browns and I look at the Steelers and I say, hey, you guys, starting with the Browns, let's go ahead and say some nice things real quick. You got a good receiver room between Elijah Moore and Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku, right? You got a solid offensive line. Running back coming off an injury, but otherwise Nick Chubb has been really good in his career. Solid defensive line, solid all the way through. And obviously Myles Garrett, I do not hold the same. I'm not saying you should cower in fear over Myles Garrett, but I'm not going to disrespect the man as he has been consistently the best edge in the NFL. Wait, do you think I disrespected him? I think you kind of brushed him off a little bit.
No. Let me be very clear about that, because I'm in my truthful era where I'm going to be honest, where I'm going to be direct. And I don't want any one of my words, not saying Evan was trying to, I don't want any of my words to be misconstrued like they were last year.
You're not saying we're not going to run to the right ever because Myles Garrett's over there.
I've literally seen the Bengals change their entire game plan just in fear of Myles Garrett. And guess what? That means you're dealing with a damn good pass rusher. But guess what? The moves that you made this offseason, right, it should make you feel comfortable enough.
Right. That's fair.
To be able to run your offense. And I just don't want to see a timid, scared Bengals football team out there that are like, well, let's just whatever side Myles Garrett is on, let's just not go that way at all. And it's like, you gotta feel free, man. You gotta be able to do what you gotta do, man. If you're gonna be the offense, just like he's a damn good pass rusher, he is one guy, right? You're a damn good offense. And you still got to be able to run your offense. You still got to make it work for you. You about to say something?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you went out and made those signings, made those draft picks because of guys like Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. Use them to the best of your abilities to counteract those guys like TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. I mean, you have the weapons there to stop what you're trying to avoid. I mean, it's simple math. I mean, you have something to go up against something else, just use it.
Yeah. So anyways, going back to the Browns, those are the nice things. Deshaun Watson has not been good at football for 4 years now. It was 2020 was his last good year and performance. And you can say, oh, well, there were nagging injuries and he and Stefanski don't get along that great. And they kind of keep taking shots at themselves in the media and going back and forth and doing all the different dances that doesn't seem like they really fit that well. But until I see Deshaun Watson play quality football for the first time in 4 years, I'm not going to be that threatened by the Browns as a whole, because the roster is very good. But again, we know that this is a quarterback driven league. And if you don't have a good enough quarterback to compete when you play guys like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, like you got to bring your A game or you got to be perfect everywhere else to compensate for that. And same thing for the Steelers, man. Like, but I do see more holes for the Steelers than I do for the Browns. When, yes, George Pickens is a talented receiver and we like Roman Wilson as a prospect, but Roman Wilson also has not taken snaps yet, so we don't know what he is. Van Jefferson is your other starting receiver. Russell Wilson, yes, absolutely. The moon balls are his bread and butter. But again, how was he successful with a all-time defense for years and then play action, heavy moving pockets, escaping pressure and creating, and he's looking at the age where he's not as quick and elusive as he used to be. Like that is something that fades. And yes, he has arm strength to compensate and do all this other stuff. But again, you're losing out on that mobility. You're losing out on the kind of heavy play action drop back stuff where you can just launch the ball, rely on a good run game. So I think he needs to be propped up in that manner.
Let me just be very clear about something real quickly. So I don't care about how they perform against other teams. I care about how they perform against, or how the Bengals perform against them. So when I talk about my fear, right, it seems like let's play a little. Let's go back down memory lane.
Well, again, this goes back to like, are you going to be scared of the Browns just because it's the Browns and they haven't played them well?
We're talking about teams that are threats to the Bengals. Right. Let's keep the main thing. And what I'm talking about is the Cincinnati Bengals. What happens if the Bengals and the Ravens, right? Because the Ravens are the true challenge to threat in the AFC North. I'm not talking about winning the AFC North. I'm talking about who's a threat to the Bengals in the AFC North. And what I mean by that is, imagine the Bengals and the Ravens are both vying for that first in the AFC North spot. And the Bengals then come up on the Cleveland Browns, right? They face the Cleveland Browns, and then what happens? They completely play down to competition, or they don't play to their full.
So you're trying to say who would they go? Oh, who are they at more risk of going 0-2 against?
To some degree, I feel like I don't even care if they go 0-2 necessarily. I'm talking
because I feel like there's a lot of overlap in this Venn diagram of like a threat in the AFC North or a threat to the Bengals, right?
Listen, okay, let me make my point very clear. Okay, the Ravens are the threat to the AFC North.
Yeah,
but there are teams in the AFC North that are threats to the Bengals, because the Bengals, when they play those teams, they don't play to the best of their ability. The best I've seen the Bengals play against the Pittsburgh Steelers was the year that the Bengals went on and they faced the Pittsburgh. They went to the Super Bowl that year. Right, the Bengals went Super Bowl that year, and they almost played with a nonchalantness, almost as if they didn't know what they didn't know. They played like they didn't care. I forgot Jamar Chase went for almost 200 yards that game, right? And it was when we were talking about Evan, and we were like, okay, their offense isn't, and we were just talking as friends, as buddies, texting each other. Well, their offense doesn't really have an identity. They were just sending chunk balls down the field, and it was working for them, and they were fearless. They didn't give a damn. They didn't care. They had Quentin Spain and Trey Hopkins. And whoever or Fred Johnson starting at right tackle. They did not give a damn about who the Pittsburgh Steelers had on the other end. But when you see Joe Burrow get knocked around a little bit more, right, and you face them and your offense is supposed to be in a better spot, you're like, let's not be as free flowing as we may have once been. If they're going to do what we think they can do, they have to almost approach it with that type of mentality, because in that aspect, you can get in your own head. You can overthink things. You can say, hey, we can't do that. But you've literally done that before. It's like, I love what Jamar Chase said in his first rookie year. And he's like, well, what do you think about the Cincinnati Bengals, struggling against the Pittsburgh Steelers? I don't know nothing about that. I'm new here. I don't know nothing about that. All I know is about what we going to do, how we are. right? And that's the type of mentality that you sort of have to have. And we kind of talked about it, Evan, at one point in time. Marvin Lewis, he sort of had his vices of things that, like, I guess made him tick a little bit, where he didn't, he was so worried about this team or that team. And it didn't, you could almost tell it was almost playing not to win, but just playing not to lose badly, if you will. And I feel like sometimes if you just keep the main thing, and that's control what happens in those four walls, control what happens inside that locker, control what happens within that offense, right? You can experience success. Just don't play timid. Play almost how you play against the Kansas City Chiefs without a care in the world. Without a care in the world.
It's like you got to play whoever. It should be like 11 faceless guys across the field from you. I mean, you should be playing the best you can no matter what. You shouldn't be, like you said, you're playing down to competition. We've seen it when they drop. We talked about it on the schedule release. They're going to drop a game they shouldn't drop. It might be the Charger game. Might be, I know how you feel about the Chargers. It might be a Charger game. They're going to drop a game they probably shouldn't drop. You should play like you're playing the best team you play all year.
I'm sorry. Bill Belichick had an interview that he did in the past where he talked about how the Patriots game planned for opponents when they had Tom Brady as quarterback. They didn't give a damn about the opponent's game plan. They cared about what they were doing.
Yeah.
And that's how they approached it, which is why every game for the New England Patriots looked the exact same almost.
Yeah.
Run the ball, play action, throw it to Gronk, throw it to Jules. Let's make it work. And it will be points in the game where they would just stall out. They would absolutely stall out. Or be like, okay, the Patriots are definitely going to lose this game. They pumped the ball and they kept the main thing. The defense will make that opportune, to get that opportunity, to, get an interception, a fumble, a blocked field goal, something would happen. And they just kept football simple. They didn't overcomplicate it. And their approach became so magnetic, if you will. It was just, it wasn't throwing the ball all over the field and changing up depending on who you're facing. I do think they changed up towards the end of Tom Brady's run at points, but it was consistent. It was consistent with the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick. And I don't know. I'm not saying the Bengals are New England Patriots and the Bill Belichick, but I'm saying try to keep the main thing. Don't try to overcomplicate it. Sorry, Evan.
No, I find it funny because you're saying don't be scared of Myles Garrett, run your thing, play your game, play your football. And you're saying, hey, it's 11 faceless guys over there. Don't worry about it. Just play your game. But then we're sitting here going, I know the Ravens are the best team, but the Browns scare me because they always play badly against the Browns.
No one is saying the Brown. There's not a team in the AFC North that scares me. What I'm saying is the Bengals have a tendency to limit their playbook, and play fearful. They're playing fearful. They are worried. They get in their own head about how they're going to approach a game. I hear what you're saying, Evan, but I'm not saying I'm worried about. I'm not worried about the Cleveland Browns, but I'm saying the Cincinnati Bengals. I believe that they have the recipe to beat the Cleveland Browns. I felt like they had the recipe to beat the Cleveland Browns last year. I thought they had the recipe to beat the Cleveland Browns almost throughout the entire Joe Burrow era. But for some reason, when that team steps on the gridiron against the Cleveland Browns, they just.
I feel like this is a larger symptom of like when they don't show up against poor teams, but it just happens that they play the Browns twice a year, every year.
Well,
so
we say that, right?
Mhm.
But we can feel that way. But what happens if it keeps happening against that same team?
Again, it comes back to that's something that they need to work on where they're going.
That's all I'm saying.
It's consistency. It's the same thing. It's getting behind in the game because you don't have the consistency down on offense, right? You don't put up enough points. You get down 14-3 against the Browns, who love to run the ball and play defense and don't rely on Deshaun Watson at present because injuries, age, not trusting and to run.
I just always felt like the Bengals are their get right game.
It's just, again, it comes back to you got to put your best foot forward, and that's just any game. It's not just the Browns. It's that random October game 100%. You play against the Vikings. It's 100%. That random game in November that you play against the Seahawks in between two division games. So anyways, going back to what we were talking about, though, the Steelers, again, I come back to the quarterback question of, hey, I haven't seen Russell Wilson be one of those top 10 quarterbacks in going on 2 years, 3 years now. He's outside of that system that found him so successful. And then looking at other holes I see on the roster, the D-line is great. I don't know if Patrick Queen is necessarily going to solve your linebacker issues because he looked putrid until Roquan Smith got next to him, and basically they could just let him loose and say, don't worry about your major responsibilities. Just go be an athlete and be good. And then the corner room, man. I like Joey Porter as much as the next guy as a prospect, but Dante Jackson, the cast off from the Carolina Panthers, is your other starting corner right now. Darius Rush is your nickelback right now. So there is definitely a
Like the
secondary
band.
there that can be attacked. Obviously, the safeties are good. I like Minka Fitzpatrick a lot. I think Deshaun Elliott is a very solid player, but these corners are individual matchups that definitely could be targeted on top of a wide receiver room that is still trying to find itself, on top of an offensive line that is currently being remade and switched into a new scheme and system with Arthur Smith. So all of those things make me look at the Steelers and say, like Logan did, yes, they could be the most legitimate threat in a year or two, but I just don't think they're there, which leads me to the Ravens, which obviously Lamar Jackson, great quarterback, very talented, former MVP. We know the defense comes to play all the time. Big Justin Matabuke fan. Even Michael Pierce, as much as you can be a fan of an older nose tackle, I love Michael Pierce. He's been doing it for a long time, and he's really good at it. Roquan is probably one of the more fun linebackers to watch that's not named Fred Warner. And Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams is a great safety tandem. Marlon Humphrey is one of the league's better nickelbacks when he's healthy. So between all of that, I'm like, you've got a lot of good, solid units here for the Ravens on defense. And then you have former MVP Lamar Jackson, who, if he's healthy, is one of the best weapons in the NFL. I like Zay Flowers a lot. I think he develops his role a little bit in the offense this year. I think they can only benefit from giving the OBJ snaps to just anyone else, because he was just so largely ineffective for them outside of like one or two highlight plays last year. So just with all of that, if they can maintain the health on their offense, I really think they have the great defensive unit. I think they have the elite quarterback talent that you need to compete with all of the best teams consistently in the NFL. And that's why I look at the Ravens and I go, squarely, you've got the elite quarterback and the solid roster. So you are squarely the AFC North, Bengals, whatever lens you want to put on it. I believe no matter what, it would be the Ravens.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that I personally, when I first made my statement, I expected everybody here to say the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think that that's reinventing the wheel. I don't think that's rocket science. I think that we are looking at the Baltimore Ravens as a true competitor to the AFC North title. But when we talk about the Bengals dropping games, especially games that they have no business dropping, we've seen them drop games to the Pittsburgh Steelers, whether it be the opening day, right, when Joe Burrow was healthy or whatever the case would be. We've seen them drop games to the Cleveland Browns. Those mishaps that they have had, well, we got to start looking at them with a bigger magnifying glass. It's easy to look on paper and say, hey, yeah, the Bengals are going to beat the Cleveland Browns because of the quarterback situation or whatever. But the Bengals tend to play down to competition when they play those guys. For whatever reason, they just tend to do it. And all I'm saying is, while I'm looking at the Baltimore Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens, had the Bengals not won one game in their division, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But they won one game in their division last year, right? And so we have to have the conversation. We have to have the dialogue, because we do believe they're head and shoulders better than the Pittsburgh Steelers. But are they going to play like it? Are they going to be consistent when they play like it? We believe that they're better than the Cleveland Browns, but are they going to play like it? And those are the conversations that I guess we will continue to have until both teams step on the gridiron, right? But it's one of those things where it's like, I think we're all fighting for the same cause here. Hey, we want the Bengals to show up and show out. And I guess part of what I'm trying to get at is, hey, if you're going to beat the Cleveland Browns, well, don't play and shrink your playbook and play scared, essentially. Play with that same type of tenacity that, hey, you know what? We want to win. We want to win, and we're going to leave no stone unturned, because that's what the great teams do. But make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the First Star Logistics Studio. I want to get this to some questions. I promised the guys I will let them out of here a little early today. So we're going to get to some questions. But before we do, don't we have a giveaway or something like that to do? Well, luckily, right before the show, we spent the wheel. We figured out who the winner was of the 2 Bengals tickets giveaway to the game of your choice this year. Marissa, play the video. For participating and for a chance to win 2 free Bengals tickets for a game of your choice. There were many people that entered for a chance to win, but we could only pick one winner. Now it's time to figure out who that winner is. All righty. Congratulations to Laura Johnson. Johnson 32. You are the official winner of our 2 Bengal tickets giveaway that we're doing for this upcoming season. We'll be in touch. You get to tell me what game it is that you want to go to. And if you didn't win, don't worry. We're going to be doing a lot more giveaways. I hear there's a college football game coming out. May have heard that from a bird or two. So congratulations to Laura_Johnson 32. You are the winner of our 2 Bengal ticket giveaway. Can we give it a clap for her, Congratulations, and she has been supporting State of the Jungle and liking our stuff for quite some time. Usually when we do these type of giveaways, we don't usually see who the winner, we don't know who the winners are typically, but it was cool to see a familiar face or somebody that you at least see on social media win the award. We'll be doing more giveaways. There's a college football game coming out, and I gotta whoop Evan's ass in EA.
Which Evan?
Both Evans.
Not me.
Let's do it. Both
Not me.
both
He
line
must be
them up.
talking about you because he is not talking about
what?
me.
On the new EA college team.
Brother,
Yeah.
I still got my Xbox 360 at home.
We
I'm
could
still
run it. You
playing
ain't saying
Dynasties.
nothing.
I
We could
don't
run
know.
it. I don't care.
Oh,
Give
man.
me UTEP, I'll win. But no, we there will be more giveaways, there'll be more cool things that we're gonna be doing throughout the summer and into the year. But let's jump to a couple of questions. We've got about 4 minutes to go, so I'm gonna jump to some questions really, really quickly, or even some comments. Bradley Frost says, "Do you believe the Bengals will approach the preseason games differently? This year, knowing okay, it said came out young, but
Yeah.
this year knowing they play the Chiefs week 2 and maybe play some offensive starters." Well, I know Joe Burrow has said in the past that he would really like to get some preseason reps. Believes that will be good for him, will be good for the offense. I could see them doing it. I don't really see them making drastic changes. I probably see maybe one game and you might get a drive and a half.
Run off the field.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's one of those things where I feel like you got to almost bubble wrap Joe Burrow going into this year because you're like
The offense, the whole team.
Yeah.
I know every year you've got a tough matchup
Yeah.
in the first couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
You've got a division opponent on the road. You got somebody who's a little bit of a feisty team coming up or something, but like you said before, you can't be scared already in the preseason and being
Right.
like, wow, we really got to get right. And the preseason game is going to be where you do that. The preseason game, your offense is so watered down. You're not really executing any genuine plays that you're trying to have. It's not like those live reps are good. Joe Burrow himself has said oh, it's not that it's widely beneficial to me to knock off the rust. I just want to get hit. And I love you, Joe. That's great. We'll put some pads on you and we'll come over with the styrofoam bat that the coaches are using to beat wide receivers for contact drills. And we'll hit you around a couple times. Okay. But you don't need to be in live action risking getting hurt. Trent Brown doesn't need to be out there risking getting hurt. All of these veteran players don't need to do that when you have so many young guys that you're wanting to develop, especially for the future. And even if they do come out there again, the starters played, I think, one drive last year, and it was basically run, wide receiver screen. It's not. I struggle to have anybody stare me in the eye and tell me genuinely that yes, those reps of just run the ball, wide receiver screen are what's going to unlock the Bengals to make them play better 2 weeks later, right? I just don't think that argument holds any water at all.
Well, let's get to another question. James Wright says, "Hey fellas, I have a question. Do you think shotgun is good to run 95% of the time against the elite defensive ends we face in our division? Do you think more under center and play action is good?" I'll give my 2 cents on it. I think that when you're in your division, and Logan, I'm going to go to you after this, in your division, when you are facing some of those pass rushers like a Myles Garrett, I guess I can't contradict myself and say, hey, change what you do. I would say try to find whatever they're more comfortable running out of necessarily, whether that is shotgun, whether that is under center. We've seen the Bengals start to incorporate some more under center work. We started at the end of last year. We see it happening this early on when it comes to some of these practices. So I envision them trying to run the ball a little bit more under center, but I don't think that they fully go away from the semblance of running the ball out of shotgun. But I also think the reason why they stayed there, because I think it was a mixing thing as well. I think that's where they probably thought he was going to be most effective as well. Logan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the more you can switch up looks is the better, but sometimes you're just not good at other things. I think you should always lean more heavily on the things you're good at, because like Malik just talked about the whole New England Patriots side of things. They did the same thing no matter what, you're doing. And if you can have success doing that, why would you switch it up? I think they do need to, you don't need to do anything more drastically, but you need to give some different looks. It just helps life, makes things a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, as long as you're having success, it shouldn't really matter what you're doing.
Yeah, I think the other aspect of it is predictability, right?
Yeah.
Because we remember just a couple years ago when it was, hey, every time the Bengals go under center, they run the
Yeah.
ball 9 out of 10 times, and that was like a legit stat. That
Yeah,
wasn't
no,
like,
it
oh,
was.
it just feels like it. So you don't want to have that predictability of like, hey, we're in shotgun, shotgun, shotgun. Oh, hey, we're in pistol, or oh, we're under center. What's going to happen? Like, and that kind of telegraphs it. But again, it also gives you an advantage if the quarterback is farther from the offensive line. So it is harder to sack the quarterback, putting more distance in. It's also easier for Joe Burrow to see the field, see where he wants to go, get the ball out quick to neutralize the pass rush that way. It's also a good way for him to neutralize the pass rush because he's not turning his back. He's looking in front of him. And what is he the best at avoiding is edge pressure.
Right.
Interior pressure is what really gets him, right? He's great at stepping up in the pocket to make that arc for the defensive end just miss, just a little bit outside, right? So I think that's also part of it. And another part of it is I know the run game out of shotgun has been a little bit disappointing at times. But again, we've talked about how through the first 5 or 6 weeks that they were running against light boxes only 30% of the time. Your passing rate against light boxes should not go up. You shouldn't be a 60% neutral pass rate and then go up to 70 when you face light boxes. That's when you're supposed to run the ball. So like being more efficient with your opportunities to run those balls. Joe Burrow having the humility to be like, hey, I know I'm a superstar and I've got Jamar and T and like we can do things, but like there's 5 guys in the box. Let's just hand the ball off this one play and get 4 or 5 yards and not be at 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, right? Or 3rd and 10, something like that. So I feel like that's the other advantage of shotgun, though it can be frustrating to only have that kind of one-way go unless you do the counter plays and stuff like that, which are a little uncomfortable for running backs out of shotgun.
For sure. I'll go to Landon Van Steen's question. It's a little sort of a 2-part question. Hartman, I'm going to go to you for it. You could take us home with it. It's sort of a 2-part question. You guys think there are any more free agent signings to come? And if so, where at? And then he follows it up by saying, I really think we should sign Xavier Howard, especially with the loot ties and the cap we have. He could step in and be cornerback 1 or 2. What y'all think? I'll say this. I don't know if there's too many free agents necessarily left that I see the Bengals signing. That are currently on the market. I will say that, remember, just as the Bengals will, there'll be other teams that will start to cut players when those cut down days come. And I think that's when we can start sort of assessing the situation and figuring out who makes sense for the Bengals to potentially add.
Yeah, I just don't think there's much out there that the Bengals, really necessarily need / want. I mean, you could say you want to go after certain positions, but yeah, like pretty much what Malik said, I don't think there's a position group out there that you're hurting for right now that is open in free agency. Like there will be cuts later. Like we have the teams getting franchise tag, looking for trades. We have teams looking for or looking to open cap space, and there might be some cuts here and there. But as of right now, I don't see the Bengals wanting anyone that's out there in free agency.
See, I'll push back just a little bit about that because I do see corner as a place where you could sorely use some veteran presence. I know Mike Hilton is there. Obviously, Cam Taylor-Britt's been playing for a couple years now, but I don't see that as a surefire veteran presence. And then you're talking about putting Dax Hill back there for the first year playing wide corner, a spot he played less than 40 snaps in his entire college career, 3 years at Michigan. You're talking about Josh Newton Josh Newton. Yeah. Too many names running around in my mind right now after post-draft. So you're talking about Josh Newton. Oh, yeah, 5th-round rookie is our other guy backing up our outside spot. And it's like, okay, so you got Dax Hill, who's played less than 50 snaps at wide corner in his career. And then you've got 5th-round rookie, and those are your backup corners right now. And on top of, if you're saying, hey, there's actually some sort of open competition thing, and they're looking at moving DJ Turner out of the rotation, which I don't think there's a lot of fire beneath that smoke. But again, if you're looking at that, I'm going, hey, Stephon Gilmore is probably out there looking for a team he can compete with. If he wants more money, okay, Steven Nelson is a guy who's played for the Chiefs, played for the Steelers, has been very solid in all of those stops, who would be just a couple $1 million. And that would really help shore up that depth, or at least make you feel comfortable before you have to throw DJ Ivy off an ACL injury out there, Josh Newton off that. So I look at those, and I definitely see that. And then Calais Campbell, one of my favorite NFL players just of all time. Like, just you get a guy who could help you on the interior and just be a big ass, but you want to stop the run, put a fucking 6'8" giant dude in there who's been stout against the run all of his career, and he can play edge and defensive tackle for you. So I feel like he kind of helps with your edge depth and helps with your interior depth too. So that would be a dream target of mine, though I don't think they do that.
First, and that's the point that I was going to make here. Right. I love doing this show because you get so many different opinions, whether we agree, disagree. We tend to all sort of would like them to be a little more like, for me, I saw Dalton Risner as an ideal candidate. He obviously signed back with the Vikings today, but if we're dealing, again, I always have said this before, we're dealing in the world of Bengaldom, right? We're dealing with the Bengals here, so we have to operate in that kind of mentality. I think we all have said cornerback was a sore spot where we felt like we could add a veteran presence. We even said, hey, we could add a cornerback via the draft that was not named Josh Newton, and Evan, Logan, Daniel, all of us, we listed off our various targets, and we saw them go into the draft and not address the position until later in the draft. I say this with some educated knowledge. I don't know if I see them adding a veteran corner. Lou's the kind of guy that he would like to get his hands on the player, as early as possible. The way that I see them adding a quote unquote veteran corner is if somebody goes down in camp. But I think that the Bengals feel they need to see what they have in some of these young players. And they're going to give Dax Hill, they're going to give DJ Turner, they're going to give all these guys every opportunity it is to break through as starters or as solid contributors for this defense. And they feel good about their cornerback room as it currently stands. We all might not agree with that. But one thing's for sure, at some point or another, these guys are going to need to play, because it's one of those positions where nicks and bruises happens. It just happens. You're going to need to know what you have. And hopefully you want to go into the season feeling like you've done enough good about, the cornerback spot or your roster in general. So that way it's not a sore spot. I would like to see the Bengals add to the interior of the offensive line. I personally would like to see them.
Dalton Risner off the board today.
I know, right? To the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm like, what the hell? So, but it's one of those things where I felt like that guy sat out there way too longer. If you guys could do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content in the chat. We want to thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of State of the Jungle with me and the guys. Daniel will be back soon. Evan's going to take a little break from us for a little bit. But we want to thank him so much, man. You've been an awesome guest co-host for the last couple of weeks. Hopefully we treated you nice. Hopefully you want to come back at some point or another.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a great experience. I thank everyone for being so welcome, and thanks my best friend Malik over here for getting me on here. A little inside joke there, but no, thanks for everyone for having me. Thanks for the chat being so welcome and no hateful comments. Didn't get anything thrown at me too much. So other than that, I had a fun time, and I'd love to come back.
Man, well, I know you'll keep killing it, doing what you're doing up at Ohio State, writing some kick-ass articles, and we want to thank you guys so much for tuning in and making State of the Jungle your every Wednesday night routine and spending it with me and the guys. But until next time,